You're listening to the Platte River Bard. Jillian Carter, who is an actor, playwright, and director, has been a friend of the podcast from our beginning, and we were able to sit down in person with her this time. She is always a delight, and I have missed her presence greatly because of the pandemic. We had the opportunity to also meet Dustin Witte, co-founder of OmniArts Nebraska, managing artistic director, and also an accomplished set designer, to talk about their intriguing season at OmniArts Nebraska.
Glad that the entire season appeals to you, because certainly a goal of mine, and from the time that OmniArts was founded, our hope was to curate a season with a cohesive thesis. We're not just doing, I could say a bunch of titles, but I don't want to say that. More commercial fare, more sort of populist, typical things you would see at community theaters possibly, that could be somewhat random, but to really try and build a season around ideas or concepts that we want to explore about our humanity, about our world. And so this season is based in nature, both the natural world and human nature, and how technology has influenced and shaped that and continues to influence that. And I feel like with the selection of titles that are already licensed, the new work, all of that, I feel like we are really digging into those ideas, and hopefully those are experiences that people can have.
The first show of their season begins with the play Hunter-Gatherers, and directed by Jillian Carter. Jillian talked to us about why she wanted to do this play, which, even though it's a comedy, it's a little dark. But it challenges the observer to look into ourselves about how we would respond.
One of the things that really drew me to this script is that it really challenges our ideas of binaries. You know, we have these ideas of, like, there's alpha males and there's beta males, and there's straight and there's gay, and there's woman and there's man, but there's a lot of blending of what that looks like in this play. It is absolutely crazy. I mean, if you look at the synopsis online, it starts with, you know, a lamb sacrifice, and not everybody makes it to dessert. So, but exactly. But I mean, the great thing about this, as we were talking about how, you know, like, people's kind of primal nature can come out, is that these are really ordinary characters. I mean, they're ordinary people who just get so caught up in a moment and so caught up in everything that is happening on that particular night that these weird things end up happening. But it makes sense. Like, in the play, and as you see it performed, it makes sense. You're not like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous, what is happening here? Right. You're like, yep, no, of course that's going to happen because this happened.
Their second play, Marjorie Prime, directed by Dustin Witte, is a futuristic story of a woman who has a hologram as a companion.
So it is a 4-person play. I guess you would probably say it's a drama set in a near future where people are able to have holographic representations of their deceased loved ones. Marjorie is the title character, a woman in her late 80s who's kind of holding on to days gone by and has a holographic version of her deceased husband, Walter, back when he was still in his 30s. And it's about their memories and about her transitioning into a world that she doesn't really recognize anymore.
I'm intrigued not just by the premise of this play, but the fact that OmniArts will be casting an older woman, since the main character is in her 80s.
And one of the things that I loved when Dustin was bringing this up as part of the season was that there's a woman in her late 80s on the stage. Mm-hmm. Like, that's something that I love about OmniArts, that they think about. They think about what opportunities are we creating and who are we creating the opportunities for, to make sure that, you know, people who are not being represented well enough on stage in our community are getting that representation in there somewhere. That's a conversation that happens when he's talking about his season, and I love that that's a conversation. I hope that all theaters are having those conversations now.
And the final show of their season is Happy Birthday Lily, written by Jillian Carter, which promises to end their season with a bang. Jillian talks about how this story came about.
And they were talking about how they'd love to see more nudity on stage, like not sexualized, not, like erotica, just being naked, because sometimes we're just naked. Like if you're at home, sometimes you're just naked, And I was like, I mean, if you want a naked play, I'll write you a naked play. So I'm sitting in the dressing room backstage while Psycho Beach Party is happening, because I didn't have a lot to do during the performances other than sweep stand up off the stage. So I'm sitting in the dressing room and I wrote out the first scene. And one of the characters was naked throughout the entire first scene. And I had a couple people read it, and we thought it was funny. So I just made it into a whole play.
We loved chatting with Jillian and Dustin, and it was a great interview. So with that, we will let you hear the entire interview with them so you can hear more details about the upcoming shows. OmniArts Nebraska always wants to give new projects and original works a space to be encouraged and a place to grow. And in addition to their shows, there are 2 remaining events: the Yuletide Fright Fest, an event to share scary stories, and YAAS Ghosts, a new adaptation of Henrik Ibsen's Ghosts that are coming up. So find out all about it here on the Platte River Bard.
And we are here with Jillian Carter. She is a playwright, she is a director, and she is a board member at OmniArts Nebraska. And we are also here with Dustin Witte. He is the founder of OmniArts and the managing artistic director. Thank you both for coming today and talking with us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Yes, welcome.
And we're meeting here at the Foundry today, which is pretty neat. First time at the Foundry.
Downtown Lincoln.
There we go.
Well, you guys have an exciting season coming up.
Yes, talking about OmniArts Nebraska, yes.
And right out the bat, Jillian, you get to direct the first one, Hunter Gatherers.
Yes, we are starting off the season super strong.
Great.
So our season is based around nature and technology. And so Hunter Gatherers is really diving into that nature aspect of our season, in that it looks at humans today, well, 2005, but basically today, and how they kind of, have evolved from primal human beings, from hunters and gatherers, and what that looks like in their psyches now.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like paleo.
Yes, exactly. It's pretty cool, because everybody has a little bit of caveman, cavewoman, cave person in them.
Oh, yeah.
And what does that look like when it comes out?
Right, exactly. So how did you come about finding this play? Did someone write it for you?
No, so this is a play that Dustin and one of the cast members, Shandy Anderson, came across and just reading and loved. And Dustin, Shandy, and I were all at Doan together in 2000, and we had planned on doing a senior project together, which was going to be this play called Album, which is about 2 couples who get together every year, and they're kind of reminiscing about their lives together. And looking back on it now, we realize it was a horrible script. It was not good. But we loved it when we were 18. When you're 18, your taste is a little different. So this is almost like an updated version of that, in that the 3 of us are going to get to do something together that is also about 2 couples who get together every year and have this, interesting intertwined history together. So this is something that I think has been, 20 years in the making for us to get to work on together.
Wow, how exciting. And it sounds like it's going to be kind of a wild ride.
Oh my gosh.
Hunter Gatherers sounds crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. I mean, if you look at the synopsis online, it starts with, a lamb sacrifice.
Yeah.
And not everybody makes it to dessert. So, but I mean, the great thing about this, as we were talking about how, like people's kind of primal nature can come out, is that these are really ordinary characters. I mean, they're ordinary people who just get so caught up in a moment and so caught up in everything that is happening on that particular night that these weird things end up happening, but it makes sense. Like in the play and as you see it performed, it makes sense. You're not like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous what is happening
Right,
here.
right.
You're like, yep, no, of course that's going to happen because this happened. It's really... It's such a fun time, and it's such a wild ride, and I think it's weird, but it's accessible, and that's
Yeah.
really what OmniArts is good at. The
That's
things
great.
that if you try to explain it out loud, you're like, I don't know about that, but you go and see it, and you're like, oh yeah,
You just have to come see it. Just come see it.
Right. And no animals are harmed in the making
no,
of
no,
this.
absolutely
not at all.
absolutely not.
Just want to make sure you don't have any picketers.
There you go.
We put it out there. So, well, that sounds like a lot of fun. How big is your cast for that?
So it's just 4.
Oh,
It's just 4 people, and
That's a 4-person
2 of them
cast.
have never done an OmniArts show before, so that's really exciting to get some new people in there.
Cool.
It is Dustin Witte here is one, and then Shandy Anderson, who I mentioned earlier, who was in a girl and getting this into the OmniArts season, and then Aaron Mills and Tyler. Why can't I think? Rennie. Couldn't think of Tyler's last name for a second. Tyler Rennie. So Aaron Mills is commuting in from Omaha to be in this, and Tyler Rennie is the associate director at Beatrice Community Players.
Oh,
Say that's a familiar
he's
name.
loved
Yes,
Community
exactly. So he's
Players.
coming in from Beatrice. So that's how excited they are about this project, that they are willing to make 45-minute trips to come in
Nice.
and rehearse.
Right. Wow. I love that.
I
How
get-
much fun is that?
I know.
So it's a little bit. So there was a disclaimer on the play, just to say. So there was some disclaimers, just so people know.
Oh, yes.
It's not necessarily a family.
No.
No.
I just want to.
In all of our materials and when you buy tickets even, there's a content warning
Okay.
about violent and sexually explicit
Yes.
both language and content on
Yes.
stage.
Okay.
So, yes.
Hey, well, sometimes you need a good word.
I mean, my older kids are going to come see it.
Right.
But,
Yeah, it's for
but I'm
older
also
folks,
that
yeah.
kind of mom.
That's all right.
And I mean, in a lot of ways, that's fairly typical to many of the productions
Right.
that
Yes.
we choose and produce. I think, I don't ever want to say something's rated R, but it can create a vehicle for conversation if you've got people who are willing to observe that and place it into context with the people they're watching it with.
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. I think that when people leave this show, they're going to have a lot to talk about. Like, this is not, you go to a play and as you're driving home, you're like, yeah, that was fun. And then you go to sleep. This is going to be hour-long conversations
Yeah.
about, ooh, that really got me thinking about this. And
Yeah.
do you remember the time this? I mean, this
Yeah.
is,
And
it's
what would
it's a
you do?
thought-provoking,
Oh, wow.
fun show.
Wow.
That's cool.
The play is really fun in that it kind of uses, I don't know, our understanding of stereotypes. I mean, we'll immediately understand that this is 2 couples getting together for dinner. And the actors don't really have to work that hard to explain that to an audience. Like, we'll see that.
Right.
But then as things start to kind of go off kilter, as things start to get more extreme, then as an observer, I think you have a lot more to look at about yourself and your own impulses, desires.
Absolutely. One of the things that really drew me to this script is that it really challenges our ideas of binaries. We have these ideas of, like, there's alpha males and there's beta males, and there's straight and there's gay, and there's woman and there's man. But there's a lot of blending of what that looks like in this play. And with, someone that comes in and you think is just like the strongest, very forceful alpha type of person, and then you see them breaking down and getting vulnerable. And the same thing with someone who seems, super, super straight, maybe not so much, and I like that everything doesn't have to be one or the other, because as people, that's not how we are. Everything exists on a spectrum, whether it's gender or femininity or masculinity or sexual orientation. Everything has this lovely gender, and you don't have to fit on one end or the other. You can be in the middle.
That's right. You can be anywhere on there.
And well, I think you can still always just love yourself.
Exactly.
And I think that's part of it, is that, I always worry that somebody doesn't appreciate who they are, who their being is, regardless of identity, but they don't appreciate their own body.
Yes, anything about themselves. I think
Yeah.
everybody has those insecurities, and everybody
Right.
is worried
Absolutely.
about being 100% authentic and what that will come off as to
Yeah.
other people. And that's one of the conversations that I think this play can play a part in.
Yeah.
Is talking about, like, bad things happen if you hold it in, and
Right.
bad things happen if you repress things down, because eventually they're going to explode. You can only pack so much in before it has to come out.
Right.
So
They're sort of put in a situation where sort of all the societal, everything is sort of stripped away, and
Yes.
they're just themselves now, with
Exactly.
nothing else sort of imposed on them,
Right.
and all the rules, no rules now.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can be in whatever you are.
That's a theme in the play that, well, and that was part of it, because Shandy, who's in the show playing Pam, is the person who suggested the play to me initially, and I read it and I was very excited about the script, but was a little nervous to see if we could pull it off.
Sure.
If we had 4 people who would be just right for it, and we do. But like that stripped away quality that we try to
Yeah.
exist in society and play by all of these rules, unspoken or spoken, but we're still mammals, we're still biological creatures that have millennia of programming, of survival impulse, of
Yes.
all of this. And if we're allowed to really get into that and express
That's
that.
the thing. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
And I think it's important to say too that this is really funny.
Well,
Because we're getting like
doesn't
deep
it
and
have to
dark.
be though?
Yeah, we're getting deep and dark and into stuff, but there's so much in it that is very humorous and that is very loving and that is really
Good.
enjoyable on
Sure.
that level as well.
Yeah.
And I always feel like the best plays are both. You know, the audience has to be allowed to take a breath and to laugh.
You got to let them up
Right.
for a second.
If you just go for an hour and a half, or some plays 3-4 hours of down and dirty
Oh,
and
man.
drudgery,
Right.
like how do you come out of that as a happy human being?
yes.
So,
just feel beat up by
Exactly,
the end. Yeah, you got to
exactly.
let them up for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what life is. Life isn't always like that. Life, whether it's appropriate or not, things are funny when things are funny.
Right.
And humor
Absolutely.
happens when it happens.
Sometimes just the most ordinary comment is really funny in the circumstances.
In the
And
circumstance.
This play uses that a lot. I mean, you build tension,
Yeah.
and then you relieve it
Yeah.
with a hilarious one-liner.
Right. It's not like they're jokes. It's all situational because somebody said this thing because this crazy thing just happened.
exactly.
Yeah,
And I've been so blessed to work with this crazy talented cast because every single one of them has comedic timing that is amazing. I mean, there are times when, just having read the script, I didn't think that certain things were funny, and then you put it on its feet, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, that's hilarious.
That's hilarious.
I
Yeah.
had no idea that was going to be so funny.
Yeah.
So the cast brings so much to it. They're all
nice.
really, really talented.
And I'm just excited that you get to massage your director muscle.
Yes.
on
Yes.
Yes. Well, and originally, the idea was for me to be playing a part in this, but since I got diagnosed with MS and I had just done a play with OmniArts, I closed out their last season playing Ham in Samuel Beckett's Endgame
Oh, okay.
with Dustin.
Oh, cool.
And even though in that play I'm just sitting in a chair the entire time, it was very physically demanding. It was a lot. Yeah. Just the emotion and the tension
Okay.
was
Sure.
was way more physically than I expected it to be. So after we got done with that, I was like, I don't think I can be on stage anymore right now.
gosh.
At least for a while. So I'm calling it like my semi-retirement from performance at
okay.
this point. But what a role to end on. So I'm really okay if
Yeah.
that's the last one.
That's a good one.
But so I was going to be in it, and then I said, "Oh, I can't." And Dustin was like, "Well, then you could direct it." And so I'm so happy that I still get to be super involved in this because I had
great.
gotten so attached to the script. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, and I think you've always felt more connected to some of the behind the scenes stuff
Yes.
in the past anyway.
Definitely. I started out as a performer, but and I enjoy it, but the writing and the directing is really
Where your heart is.
It is. It is. I find it more satisfying to be part of the macro instead of the micro. Like I don't want to just do my part. I want to help with, the bigger things. And working with Dustin at OmniArts has been so great for me because my biggest weakness is the technical. I don't get it. I don't understand it. My mind doesn't work that way.
Fair enough.
And so being able to have a technical director, an artistic director who's going to take care of that so that I can just focus on what's happening on the stage, not what's happening above the stage and behind the stage and next to the stage, for him to do the lighting and the sound and the set and all that stuff, with my input because I, am the director, but he walks me through that and teaches me without ever being condescending. So I'm getting basically like a college education from him every time we do a show together.
That's
because
great.
he shows me how to do everything.
Well, and we find a way to collaborate. Because a part of what we do based on our circumstances of producing a play, a lot of my interest is in efficiency, in sort of streamlining. Like, I don't want a lot of superfluous stuff on stage that doesn't directly contribute to the action or the telling of the story.
Okay.
It's a part of my design aesthetic, I guess. You could say I'm a little bit minimalist when it comes to scenic design, but also in terms of just telling the story and our reality of resources, time, people.
It works.
To find a way that we're not sacrificing anything, but really getting down to the nitty-gritty of what we're trying to say.
Yes.
And I would say when you walk into an OmniArts show, Dustin can say that his style is minimalism, but unless you are like a super theater person, you don't see that. You walk in and you see this beautiful set and the things that he does, because he makes the sets on his own. Like, every now and then we might come in as the board and help with like a base coat or something, but he puts them together. He designs it. He does the whole thing himself. So when you come in, he's created this whole world on the stage. And so, yes, he didn't do the extra stuff that wasn't necessary, but coming in as an audience member, you would never think of it as minimalist.
Right.
You would just be like, oh, this is amazing.
Well,
this is
yeah,
great.
that's
I'm in
sweet.
this world now.
And I guess it's not really taking away so much as, I guess, distilling.
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like minimalism gets a bad name sometimes. People think of
It
minimalism
feels like,
as, like a blank stage with actors' blocks on it. And it's not that at all. It is a full immersed world that you walk into.
Yeah.
But he realized, well, I didn't really need, to have a full wall. I can suggest the wall with the flat, but it doesn't take anything away from it.
Right.
Things like that.
And everything's fine.
I'm just always amazed when I see the sets that he puts together.
Oh, thank you. Well, and we have a great collaboration. We get to bounce ideas back and forth and think about what works. Because I am also in the show, so I wear multiple hats usually in our productions. But I mean, that's a part of how I guess interpret and understand a script.
Fair enough.
Is both thinking about it as like, what's my role in it as an actor when I'm in it, and what is this world that we exist in.
Sure.
So they kind of feed each other.
Yeah, they feed into each other and they help you create the whole thing, really.
Yeah.
I can definitely understand that. That always helps me too. Even just thinking about other parts of it always helps me, and not just my little part.
Yeah.
Although I got to do some assistant directing recently, and I found out that I really like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Didn't expect that.
No, I thought that the first time I directed, I did not expect to like it as much as I did. And then I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
This might be something.
I know, and I liked working with the actors, and I gave notes, and then I saw things happen, and it was like, oh, well, okay.
Felt good, huh?
And it felt good, and it felt like I was helping. It felt like I was making things better.
Yeah.
And that really jazzed me in a way that I did not expect.
See, and I felt really positive that he would be good at that, because when he was in a production, he'd come home and I would hear things, right? But now he gets to actually be a part of
It's been fun.
all the things,
It's been
to
fun.
change whatever things. So
But it was
that
very
has to be
interesting.
exciting and really.
It is
rewarding
exciting,
that
and
way.
I definitely see the
You were doing it. He
attraction.
just wasn't. He was doing it in his head.
I was doing it in my
That's what I'm
head,
saying.
which I think we all do before we try
Oh,
it, right?
absolutely.
Well, I would do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but that's one of the great things about theater as a whole, is that you don't have to be pigeonholed into one thing. You don't have to be just an actor or just a writer or just a director or just a stage manager, whatever. You can try all these different hats on and see
Yeah.
which ones you like the best. And sometimes it can be hard, especially with directing, breaking into it. But once you get there, it's great. I think it's so funny to me that when we were doing Endgame at the end of last season, I think people had forgotten that I was a performer first. So we were like, "Oh, you're going to be on stage?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that I do that as well."
That's also I do that.
Like, you can do one thing for a couple years, and people forget that you did everything else
Right,
too.
because that's what you do now. Yeah,
exactly. But I love it because I get the imposter syndrome where I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if I've been an actor for so long. Should I be directing? Are people going to take me seriously?" And then I get people who don't remember me being anything other than a director, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that was just all in my head. Never mind.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were more. I could always tell that's where you were more comfortable.
Yes.
At least.
Yes.
Yeah. So the one after this is Marjorie Prime, and that's
Yes.
Yeah, what's that?
it's by Jordan Harrison.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's a fantastic play. Actually, it was suggested to me by another board member, which is great. I love having collaborators involved, supporters involved that go and see things and read things and tell me about them.
Absolutely.
So it is a 4-person play. I guess you would probably say it's a drama set in a near future where people are able to have holographic representations of their deceased loved ones. So not super far in the future, honestly.
No,
but,
it's not.
But it's something that's able to be a AI, I guess. You know, you have this artificial intelligence presence that has most of the memories of your long lost loved ones. So Marjorie Prime, Marjorie is the title character, a woman in her late 80s, who's kind of holding on to days gone by. And has a holographic version of her deceased husband Walter back when he was still in his 30s.
Okay.
And it's about their memories and about her transitioning into a world that she doesn't really recognize anymore. Yeah. And her daughter is also a character in it, Tess, with her husband John. I hope I'm not getting those names wrong. I've read it so many times, but I'm working on another show right now. So.
Fair enough.
But it's a beautiful play that explores memory and technology and the way that we relate to aging, even in a world that's keeping us alive longer and longer.
Yes. That sounds fascinating. That's really cool.
When I first read it, as a designer, is kind of where it struck me because I was like, ooh, this is like the Twilight Zone a little bit. There's this kind of like, you could play this 60s mod kind of look to some of it. Like that was part of what I got excited about.
For sure.
But it's so human as well.
Yes. Very sort of Ray Bradbury, Philip K. Dick. In the vibe from the description for sure, and I'm in anything that will inject sci-fi into.
I was just going to say, it kind of reminds me of the Star Trek TNG episode that I love so much.
Oh my goodness!
But I love the creative use of the sci-fi elements to tell a human story.
I mean,
I'm
a huge science fiction fan.
Yeah.
I've probably seen every Star Trek episode you would ever reference.
Sure.
But I love how that can exist as an allegory or as a parable, as something just enough distance that we can be entertained by it, but it's still directly telling us about ourselves, our circumstances.
And so many people are dealing with memory issues with loved ones anyway, and going through that, and you know, finally having the day where their parent doesn't remember them. So,
and one of the things that I loved when Dustin was bringing this up as part of the season was that there's a woman in her late 80s on the stage. Like that's something that I love about OmniArts, that they
in the
think
title
about,
role.
They think about what opportunities are we creating and who are we creating the opportunities for to make sure that, you know, people who are not being represented well enough on stage in our community are getting that representation in there somewhere. That's a conversation that happens when he's talking about his season, and I love that that's a conversation. I hope that all theaters are having those conversations now and realizing
what
like
roles are available.
Yes, because it's not, diversity is not just skin color. It is everything. It is age, and it is, you know, physical ability, and it is gender. I mean, it's just absolutely everything. And so OmniArts really very intentionally talks about that and looks at that, and I appreciate that so much.
I do too, because I think a lot of the theaters are always looking towards young people, which is great, but then there's everybody else out there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sorry, but I can only play my 20s for so long.
I know, it's true.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Some other parts, please.
It's not very community theater if you don't have everybody in the community.
It's true.
So, have you cast this one yet, or you
No,
haven't
so
had
we'll have auditions
yet?
for that early in 2023.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like the future to me.
Because that's a March one. So
Right.
yeah, okay.
It runs
you
at the end of
haven't yet.
March. We'll likely audition in January, early or mid-January, and then start into rehearsals on that. But it's definitely on my mind.
That sounds really cool.
And I'm sorry,
That's-
did you say this was a locally written play, or?
No, that one is a licensed
It's a
production
licensed
through one of the
production?
major
Yeah.
companies.
Oh, how nice, though.
I think there's maybe been a local production of it in Omaha, but I don't know anybody else that has done it locally. It's
Right.
fairly recent, written in at least after 2010. I don't remember
I
when
was
it
going to
first
say,
premiered.
yeah, it would have to be
Yeah.
newer, at least.
I love it.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, that's great. And then you have in June, you have the Happy Birthday Lily, which Jillian
Happy
wrote.
birthday, Lily. Yes.
So this is obviously the one I really want to talk about. But
So written, not directed, but written.
written by
Okay.
me. Yes. So this is my first full one act that's going to be produced. We did OmniArts last year was kind enough to do a staged reading of it. We actually did it twice with two different casts, which was really exciting. As a writer, to hear two completely different sets of people.
Yeah.
Really gave me such great insights into what was playing well and what was on the page, but what the actors were bringing to it and stuff like that. And so that was really well received, I would say. We got a decent turnout to come see it, and people were really loving it. So Dustin decided to put it into this season. And then Dustin and I together are going to write a companion piece to make it a full night of theater. So we'll have Happy Birthday Lily as the first act, and then the second act will be some monologues and vignettes that we are going to collaborate on.
That is
So,
wonderful. I love that mix. That's a
Yes.
great mix.
It's going to be great.
So this isn't the one that you took to the play festival in Kansas. This is because
No.
that was the one that you wrote with one of your kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. What went on it? What did we have at Theater Lawrence? Oh, that was Lesbians, KFC, and Ellen DeGeneres.
Yes,
That's right.
that's the
Yes,
one.
yes. Yeah. No, that was completely different, and that was a 10-minute play. So this is a
right.
bigger, longer thing. Let
full
me tell you
one
about
act,
this play,
yeah.
because this is hilarious.
Okay.
So I was stage managing Psycho Beach Party. Dustin was directing for OmniArts, and how great is that title, Psycho Beach Party?
Yeah,
I know, it's good.
absolutely.
But so a conversation came up with Dustin and the board president, Sarah Zolkowski, and they were talking about how they'd love to see more nudity on stage. Like, not sexualized, not, like erotica, just being naked, because sometimes we're just naked. Like, if you're at
Sometimes.
home, sometimes you're just naked.
Sometimes
you
you're
know?
naked.
And I was like, if you want a naked play, I'll write you a naked play.
We'll make a naked play.
So I'm sitting in the dressing room backstage while Psycho Beach Party is happening, because I didn't have a lot to do during the performances other than sweep stand up off the stage. So I'm sitting in the dressing room, and I wrote out the first scene, and one of the characters was naked throughout the entire first scene.
Okay.
No.
And I had a couple people read it, and we thought it was funny, so I just made it into a whole play.
That is awesome.
And so it is. It takes place at an 8th birthday party. But the party is all off stage. So the party is going on, but
Okay.
this is just what's happening kind of behind the scenes at the party in the kitchen, just the adults. So there's
Okay.
3 adults, a man and his new boyfriend and his estranged wife.
Okay.
And they all get naked at some point during the play.
Okay. Everybody's naked.
Yes, everybody gets naked at some point.
It's the first time the ex-husband is hosting the birthday party,
Yes.
hosting Lily's party, since the two of them have split.
split.
Yes.
Okay.
So he feels like he has so much to prove
Right.
as
It's
a
gotta be a
newly
good
single
party,
dad. Like, he
yeah.
can do this.
Right.
Because that's something that women generally take on. We take
Right.
on that kind of child rearing, throwing the
The
birthday parties
planning
type of thing.
stuff,
Yeah.
and yeah.
So he really wants to prove that he can do this. He can be just as good a parent as she can. But she also does not know that he's gay.
Okay, so this
Or
is...
that his boyfriend's there.
Or
Yes,
that his
exactly. so it's got that fun mix of like sitcom,
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
zany vibe,
Get
like
that Three's Company thing
Yes,
happening.
exactly. You have the Three's Company thing happening, but you have these really real human moments, like as she finds out and has to deal with that, and as he tries to figure out how to tell her and deal with that. And
Yes.
it's a really nice coming out story.
Yeah,
I think that is
good.
couched in in this kind of madcap, zany birthday party world.
And also naked.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. And also
I
naked.
mean, but the show is sort of disarming in that way, like that
Yeah.
it has the sitcom level that it plays on. There's some great gags and it's fun and quippy, but it's also very honest.
Yeah.
And there's that nudity element, which sort of just, I don't know, like maybe that's an intrigue factor for people who
Sure.
come to it. And it's certainly a potential challenge because there are a lot of actors, myself included, who aren't certain how comfortable they are with that. But it also requires clever staging and just a way to deal with it. You know, we're not sexualizing people.
Well, and that's the thing. You're not doing erotica. This is
No,
yeah,
it's
no,
not.
yeah.
It's not a sexual thing that they're naked. It's just. I mean,
It's just-
the
they're
first
just naked.
one, he just got out of bed. He woke up. He went to the kitchen to get coffee.
He sleeps naked.
He didn't put clothes on.
Well,
you know,
that's
that's perfectly normal.
that's life.
It's going to be weird to the audience, but it's perfectly normal
Yes,
to do that.
it is.
That's not a. It
Yes, it
shouldn't
is.
have to
Yeah.
be such a big deal.
True.
It is difficult though to pitch it as I'm trying to convince people because I realize I got to lay the groundwork to get
Right.
people to come to these auditions
Right.
next
Right,
year.
right.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say, audition's gonna
it's
be
hard to be
fun.
like, I'd love you to audition for this play without it sounding like I want to see you naked. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say I'm really proud of this play. I think you're a great performer. I hope that you will consider trying out for it. By the way, you also have to be naked.
by the way.
Well, I mean, art always explores taboos or things that I mean, you know,
Yeah.
we want to delve into things that might make
Yeah.
people a little uncomfortable and see what that teaches us about ourselves.
Right.
Sure.
I've seen
And with a
naked
comedy,
plays.
why not?
And it's a comedy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like it's
I've seen naked plays. It's been about 20 years, but I've seen naked
Yeah,
plays.
there was a time
Yeah.
when I think it was a little more like that was a trend.
Yeah.
That was something that was
60s, 70s
happening
for sure.
more frequently.
Yeah.
And then we very much went away from that. And I think
Yeah.
that American culture too is we're a little weird about it. You know?
didn't Radcliffe do Daniel Radcliffe
yeah.
do
when he did Equus?
Equus,
Yep.
what,
Yep.
I guess
Yep.
it's been maybe
Definitely some nudity.
7 years now. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was that's a famous naked play.
Exactly.
And they sort of but nothing really kind of happened after that. I know.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just interesting.
It is interesting. But you know, like America
Yeah.
is so weird about nudity. When you go to other countries, like for Canada, their rating system on movies and things is more based around violence. Like they don't want their kids seeing
Yes.
guns and violence, but they don't care if you see a nipple.
No.
Whereas with us, the kids can see all the violence they want, but goodness forbid that you
Right.
see a breast. You know,
Yes,
so it's
Right.
It's
odd.
completely opposite. Yeah,
It is.
It really
is
is.
really opposite.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
and same with like spas and stuff like that. European.
Yeah,
spas
exactly. You know,
and-
they've got nude
yeah.
beaches and toddlers running around on them. It's not
yeah.
such a big
It's
deal.
not a
Which
thing.
I'm not saying you should bring your kids to this play.
No.
I'm just saying, like, it doesn't have to be a big deal
Right.
for us to see a little bit of nudity here and there.
Right.
love
You just
it.
have to have the heat up a little bit or the air conditioner. on.
Yeah,
That's
that
it.
may be.
Finding that right
is a good
temperature
point.
is going to be
That's right. Let's not have a cold
the
theater.
challenge.
Let's have a nice warm theater.
I love it. So, do you have season ticket holders, or do people just they purchase by the show?
Yeah.
Generally by the show. Sometimes for promotional purposes, we'll do a season ticket
Yeah.
pass. But so the three main productions that are at the Johnny Carson Theater at the Lead Center, those tickets are all sold through the Lead Center box office.
Okay.
Which is a great thing.
Oh, yeah.
They're such a great partner for us, and we've been doing shows consistently there for several years now.
Such a good space.
And it's wonderful that we're set up in a way that we really just focus on making the art. You know, you don't have to return phone calls about selling tickets and that kind of thing.
That's really nice.
Because they're set up for that.
Yeah,
and-
that's what they do.
Yeah. So on occasion we will do a pass, but generally, and the other events we try to promote well enough in advance that people can make arrangements.
Make it sure.
There's typically plenty of seating available.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a great space.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like it.
And I'm really glad that everything worked out during the pandemic for you all, and it
Oh,
probably
yes.
worked out well for not having a shingle, but
Yes.
being able
That's-
to use that great
That's one of the big
space when you're
things,
ready.
not
Yeah,
having that
Yeah.
overhead.
It was an
is
advantage.
helpful.
Right.
Yeah, it was frustrating, but we are set up in a way that we can kind of just press pause, I guess, if we have to, you know.
Right.
Sure.
And
Sure.
it's not costing us that much more to to keep to hold
Just
to-
to be on a holding
Yeah.
pattern. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad though. I'm so glad that you guys are
Yes.
back and
Oh,
things
God,
are
yes.
opening up, and it's so neat that I didn't know you guys went to school together. So that's
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah.
No, we never knew that.
Yeah, it's
Well,
been fun.
I dropped out really quickly, so we went to school very briefly together.
That's okay.
But Jillian was one of my first and fast friends.
Yeah, she's
when I
amazing.
was starting out at college.
Wow.
Jillian has been a friend of
Gosh.
our podcast from the very beginning.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Love it.
She's been in our corner, and
Very
we really
beginning.
appreciate everything that
Yes.
she's done.
For
So
sure.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference. Makes a big difference when you have talented folks such as yourself
Yeah.
helping people like us out in our little old podcast.
Well, you are such a great asset for our community, and I, as much as I feel like I'm immersed in local theater, I still learn things from your podcast.
Oh,
I'm like, I didn't know
good.
that was going on.
I'm so
cool. Thank you
glad.
for that.
I was doing that.
Nice.
So
Thank you.
That is really,
Thank you.
it's exciting to have that and to have a resource like that. So thank you for doing what you do.
We are happy to do it. We're happy to do it. If we're helping connect community, that's to theater. That's like our
Please.
main
Yes.
goal. And
Please.
yeah, we still have a lot. We're still finding our footing because the pandemic really changed our whole
Sort of
Yeah.
perspective on the whole thing. Yeah. As
Right.
did a lot of folks.
paradigm. I guess is the best word.
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
all found out how flexible we are, or
Right.
aren't.
Or art.
So-
Yeah. And just, because there's a lot we can talk about. And there's, I'm
Absolutely.
still constantly amazed every day, the more stuff we see between Omaha and Lincoln, how much is going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. And I think that people outside of our region would be super surprised. We're really a great, I don't know the word I'm looking for. We're just a great spot for new things between Omaha and Lincoln. There's so
Yes.
much
lot
new
of
stuff
new.
happening that I think people would be very surprised about.
And-
They don't think of us as like an incubator for stuff,
No.
but we really
or
are.
open to the new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we seem to be.
And a
I
lot
really
of the
think
smaller
we are.
communities too are doing things. I know
Yes,
Kearney
absolutely.
and North Platte and we've got
Right.
Beatrice and Fremont, and we just haven't been out there yet. But I know it's happening.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
We'll get
absolutely.
there.
I mean, there's so much opportunity really for everyone to be able to get involved and to be able to find things that they are passionate about and that they want to do within our communities, and that's amazing because people think of being stuck in the Midwest as opposed to
Yeah, no.
being
Yes.
able to do the things you love
Right.
in the
Yes.
places that you're from.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we are so glad that we were able to talk to you. And I think you made your season for me because this is all of these things look wonderful, and I think I'm going to have to see them.
I think
I
you
hope you
absolutely
do.
should.
What a great season
Yeah.
that you guys have coming up. I
That's always a
absolutely
hard.
cannot wait.
It's always hard for us too because we do get to hear about all of them. We're like, what do we do?
I know.
We're
It's
all
like
the
which
same
ones? I know
night.
because we can't go to everything, and then I'm
Yeah.
in stuff, and then
Yeah.
then it blocks out swaths.
Now
of
I get
time.
that FOMO too. Like we're performing at the same time that oh gosh, the Orpheum is doing the Life of Malcolm X. Which
yes.
oh my gosh, I want to
Yeah,
see it so
Upper
much, but
Omaha.
we're performing at the same time. There's nothing I could do.
I
Yes.
know.
Like I mean, and what a great problem to have though.
Right.
What
True.
a great problem
Right.
to have.
True.
That there's so much good theater going on that I can't see all of it.
I know.
And I did find, because I have the same problem, I did find that some of their talkbacks I think are going to be on YouTube. I
Oh,
think,
are they? Okay.
I
I think
think,
they're gonna
at least you can maybe get
yes.
in on some of the talkbacks that way.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
So that might be.
But,
I mean,
yeah.
I know it's not. It's a consolation prize, but
Still, but it's so cool.
Yeah, it'll
and-
be really
because it's local
interesting.
as well. It's not like it's a touring thing coming through.
Yeah,
It's something that they did here,
exactly.
and I love.
I'm glad that the entire season appeals to you because certainly a goal
really
of
does.
mine, and from the time that OmniArts was founded, our hope was to curate a season with a cohesive thesis.
Yeah.
We're not just doing, I could say a bunch of titles, but I don't want to say that. More commercial fare, more sort of populist, typical things you would see at
Absolutely.
community theaters, possibly.
Sure.
That could be somewhat random, but to really try and build a season around ideas or concepts that we want to explore about
that's
our
really
humanity,
cool.
about our world.
Yeah.
And so this season is based in nature, both the natural world and human nature, and how technology has influenced and shaped that and continues to influence that.
For sure.
And I feel like with the selection of titles that are already licensed, the new work, all of that, I feel like we are really digging into those ideas, and hopefully those are experiences that people can have then.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
For
because
sure.
one of the great things about how Dustin curates the seasons is that it seems like the pieces are in conversation with each other. So when you see the whole season, it's so great to be able to compare and contrast, and the same people that you saw in the audience you can walk up to and be like, didn't this part of Marjorie Prime remind you of this part of Hunter Gatherers?
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting how they were dealt with, in these different ways by
In
the
the different
playwrights, by the
ways.
director, by whatever. And I think that those are conversations that I don't get to have very often. So
No.
the fact that OmniArts makes those conversations happen is really exciting.
Yeah.
Dustin just does a great job with that.
That's great.
I
Do you
love
guys
it.
ever do talk packs?
Not typically, but my hope is that, and I often hear from audience members that they
Right.
carry the shows with them for a week or more after the show.
Yeah.
They're still talking about it with the people they saw it with. And,
Yeah.
And we have discussed possibly looking into that for some different things. Like with Happy Birthday Lily and the companion piece that we're writing for it, we're hoping to make that kind of a Pride event because it's happening at Pride. It's a coming out story.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
right after
yeah,
our
yeah.
Pride parade. So we might
Yeah.
have, something around
22nd.
that involved in it. And so we'll see. But that's really
Yeah.
something that we're thinking about. The more collaborations we can have with other community partners, and
sure.
the better.
Right.
We want everybody involved in everything we do because it's a good time, and the bigger our family is, the better for us.
I love that, and those are the kind of people that I want on the podcast because I think that's ours feeling as well, is that theater needs to be for everyone.
Exactly.
So I love that you guys are committed to that and
love
are
it.
doing some really great work and getting to do directing and writing both, Jillian.
Good for you.
And with the great scenes, and you've been doing this for quite a while.
Yes.
So yeah.
So this is our 11th season. Hitting the 10-year mark is a big deal.
Oh, man,
But
yeah.
then, based like you said, with the past few years, especially, it's been even more challenging. So then to get to year 11 and to really think about like who are we as a company, what kinds of things do we want to support and do and celebrate. So coming up in the season, part of it was trying to increase our programming a little bit, and maybe that's not the fully staged theatrical production with the 4-night run,
Right.
but
Right.
let's see what other projects we can do to get more performers involved, to get more people coming out to see things.
Right.
So this Yuletide Fright Fest, which we're doing at the end of December, the 27th and 28th, was a project that one of our board members and a collaborator, Jason, pitched as a way to kind of get in on the tradition of that ghost stories at the holidays.
Oh, sure.
I know A
Yeah.
Christmas Carol even came from that tradition.
Absolutely.
But that's something that really is an opportunity for people who want to use their voices in a way,
yeah.
because it doesn't have to be so much based in fully costumed and staged theatrical production. It's really
Right.
about this storytelling.
Yeah.
So I know we'll even be sending out soon an audition notice where we're just seeking a voice audition. Send us
Cool.
a brief voiceover.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of fun. That's Christmas ghost stories. That's such a great idea.
It is a great idea.
And what a great tradition.
And
I
one
love
of the
it.
great things too, other than people who just want to do voice acting, is like disabled performers and people who can't give a ton of time to rehearsals and stuff like that.
Yes.
This is an event that really allows them to get a chance to hop on, stage and do things without putting themselves and their health at
Yeah.
risk.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
That's
I love
really
that.
cool. I love
You'd
that.
be good at that.
Well, maybe. We shall see.
Because you have another one coming up in April that's a little spooky, the ghost one. So you've got a Yuletide one, and then you've got a ghost one in April.
Yes.
Yeah,
and that's-
Ibsen.
Did
Yeah.
I say it wrong?
Right. No. YAAS Ghosts. You're right.
with an exclamation point.
Yes, yes.
And that's another project. I love that we as OmniArts continue to build this community of people who feel like they can pitch an idea, they can have a project that they want to do.
Yeah.
And so this YAAS Ghosts is also from Jason, who's
okay.
directing the Yuletide Fright Fest, Jason
Okay.
Both of
Sansauvet.
them.
And it's his original adaptation of Ibsen's play Ghosts.
Ghosts,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. But this one, I think he's setting it in the 1980s. It allows it to maybe say some things about AIDS, to say
Okay.
some things about the party scene, about big hair.
Yeah.
So it definitely has, I think, some messages to share, but also is going to be just a ton of fun. And so a
Excellent.
reading of that in April. Yeah, and that's one of the other, not like second stage, I don't want to say that, but the projects that are not the fully staged theatrical productions,
Right,
part of
the
what we
full-blown.
do at the Johnny Carson Theater.
For sure.
But it may be something that you'll see fully staged in the future.
Exactly, because that's one of the great things about OmniArts too. When we talk about people being able to pitch projects to OmniArts and develop them, one of the most important things as a playwright is being able to workshop your pieces. And so we did that last year with one of my plays, and now doing it with Jason's play, because getting to hear it as a stage reading and hear it out loud and see in the moment how the audience is reacting to things, what jokes are landing and what are not, like it makes you such a better writer and makes you able to get it ready for a full production. And that's not something that you get an opportunity for easily. So it's a big deal.
Oh, that's so neat that you guys are doing that. And a lot of your season is new work. Is that kind of, I mean, I read through your objectives and some of your mission, but you're trying to kind of also make sure that you're always including new playwrights
Right.
and new work.
And
Yeah,
from the
which is great.
beginning, we definitely included original work, but also including fresh takes on licensed plays or known
Yeah.
kind of works.
Yeah.
Trying to give that variety. So definitely trying to give a place for things to grow, these new projects, these ideas, and let them get in front of an audience before it's a full production, see kind of how it lands, how it plays,
Yeah.
work with it. Yeah, that's always a part of what we're trying to encourage.
That's so neat. I love that. And I love the idea of doing adaptations.
Yeah, like with YAAS goes, because Ibsen is older.
A little bit.
And that's definitely that updating. I'm
I
really
like that,
curious.
though.
I'm really curious to see an update of
Well,
anything
and I
Ibsen.
think it's going to be so fun because I'm not a huge fan of Ibsen. I can say that out loud.
Fair enough.
It's not really my bag.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see it as a 1980s party scene.
Yes.
Right.
So I think Ibsen people can be excited to see what the adaptation is like, and people who don't love Ibsen can be
Yeah, you
excited
don't have
to
to know
see what
anything.
it's
It doesn't
like.
matter, yeah.
So I love that it opens up the possibilities for audiences because
Yes.
it's not hoity-toity and academic. Like I don't have
Right.
to do a deep dive into script analysis to understand what's happening once you put it in the 80s. I'm like, oh, I get that now.
Yeah.
So
I know what that is.
No, that's great. I love that you guys are doing that.
That's cool. Okay.
well, and I feel like I know it's only been a few years that you've started this podcast, but I feel like you've watched me grow because I've gotten to have all these different opportunities.
say you've gotten
And
a
let
lot
me
of opportunities come your way.
I've been very lucky that way.
Yes.
but
And you've been killing it.
thank you.
Yes.
But so I feel like you've let me come on for every opportunity that I've had, and so you've got to see me go from I kind of wrote this little play to well, I'm part of the season. So
I
it's
love
really nice to get to talk to you about that.
Oh, we are just so honored, really, for both of you to come on and talk about this.
Yes.
And Jillian, you've been a friend of the podcast since the beginning, and a good supporter of it because it sounded crazy coming out the gate. I know that.
I know.
It didn't-
Stupid
it
little
didn't.
idea.
It never sounded crazy to me. I knew how much was going on, and so to have one
Yeah.
place where we could find out, all these different things and get to hear and for it to be accessible. Because I think sometimes, I mean, you've had on some big names in our area, and sometimes those people, I'm like, well, I could never, go talk to so and so and try to get into that. But then I hear them on your podcast, I'm like, oh, that's a normal person.
They're all just, everybody's been so
I forget
nice
that
and so
sometimes.
welcoming.
Yeah.
Seriously, everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone that we have talked to. Guys, thank you guys so much. Thank you to
Yes.
Jillian Carter
Thank you.
and Dustin Witte. Thank you guys so much for taking the time, coming down here to the Foundry, talking about it. I know Justin just came from literally building a set.
Yes.
And we're literally going to go straight into rehearsal.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Back into rehearsal.
That's
That's right.
All
Back to
right.
Well,
work.
I'm
Back
glad that
to
you
it.
carved out the time to talk to us. It was just really nice to
thank
talk
you.
to you about your season.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you so
having
much for
us.
having us.
All
Yeah.
the time, anytime.
Awesome.
Hunter Gatherers opens November 2nd and runs through the 6th. The show will be performed at the Johnny Carson Theater in Lincoln. Tickets for all shows and events can be purchased at OmniArtsNebraska.org. Thank you for listening and supporting the arts in the Platte River area and beyond. Please subscribe to our podcast so you are sure to catch all of our future episodes and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Music for this podcast was used with permission by Screaming Skull Productions. See you next time on the Platte River Bard.